and welcome back to another episode of The Deevine. Today I have with me my producer, Andrew.
Hello.
And we will also have a very special guest on called Will, but we will get to that in just a bit. First, I just want to say thank you for all the support and amazing messages I've received over the last couple of weeks since launching this podcast. And honestly, your messages have really helped warm my cold heart. So, I just want to read a couple that really stuck out to me. So, one of these messages from a person named Brian, and he says, "Hello Dee, I have been a fan of you since you first stepped into the challenge. You're a great athlete and a woman. I say that in the most positive way possible. I have 2 daughters ages 8 and 9, and I want them to also be great in the future. I truly enjoyed your podcast today and what you said. Honestly, thank you for letting out." Anyways, the message just goes on, but I just want to say thank you to you, Brian, for reaching out. Another message here from Trent. He says, "Hi Dee, I wanted to reach out because I listened to your podcast and I almost cried. I'm so glad you knew who I was inside and how I was with you. I always knew you were who you were and what you meant with everything. Even though I haven't seen you on TV for a couple years or really talk like we used to, I still adore and love you so much, Dee. I'm so glad and thankful that you are here and that you are healing, and I'm so happy hearing you now. You're amazing. I will always appreciate what you've done for me." Shout out to Trent. You're a real one. And another message from this person named David. And he said, "I listened to the first 2 episodes of the podcast. They were really great. You have a real talent for it. You're a great storyteller. Can't wait to listen more in the future. Thank you for all your hard work." Yeah, so those are just a few messages that I received from you guys. And I honestly just want to say thank you so much, because hearing those messages really remind me again of why I'm doing this and why I want to continue to do this. So now I would like to introduce you guys to my guest for today. His name is Will. I was reading this article about him in the Daily Mail. So he's a weed activist and a weed enthusiast. He does all these crazy stunts to really bring attention to why we haven't legalized recreational weed in Australia yet. So I had a really cool conversation with him, and we get into the details about the stunt that he did where he projected a weed leaf onto the Opera House. So we started by discussing his recent high-profile court case and what led up to it.
So we were embarking on territory that we really had no reference for. So it was quite shocking to see such a impactful response. And once you do that once, you kind of get addicted to it. And then we just kept going from there. And then we got to today's matter, which was projecting cannabis art and 420 and Who Are We Hurting, which is the movement, onto this, and a big dancing cannabis leaf, and then all these cannabis plants and blah, 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 on the Sydney Opera House and on the south tower of the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
So how did court go? So
court just basically, we're going to court, our argument is that it's our constitutional right to be able to express our political kind of beliefs. And basically we're charged with this ordinance that was created by the Sydney Opera House Trust, which is basically a group of non-elected individuals that are, I don't know, maybe big donors of the Sydney Opera House Trust, or I don't know. But from what I've been told by the lawyer, the zoning of the property of the Sydney Opera House is actually the only trademarked building in Australia. Right. So as a reference point to that, I have a friend that does the jet boarding stuff, you know, with the jetpack and you fly with the water coming out. Yeah. So he had a show out the front of Luna Park, and then he posted the photo of the guy doing the flip on the board. Yeah. With the Opera House in the background, and he got a cease and desist letter from the Commonwealth, also by the Australian government. Yeah. Basically, because that was the reason. So he had to cease and desist. Now then, afterwards, Red Bull did the high diving competition at Miss Macquarie's chair, and for one of their promos for Instagram, the award-winning high diver, Australian woman, I don't know what her name is, but she's pretty gnarly. She backflipped out of the helicopter into the water. But on the Instagram post underneath, it says, "with permission from the Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Opera House Trust." So it's all about the language, right? Yeah. Okay, so that is basically what is a definition of what we're charged on. So we're we're charged on the fact of distribution, or what is it basically? It's kind of like it's like distribution or like basically handing out advertisements on the Sydney Opera House, right?
Without their permission.
Yeah. And like we did it for an hour, and we did it from 3 different places. We did it from the Hyatt, which is that really baller hotel that's right there.
Yeah.
It's super, super nice. Probably the nicest hotel I've stayed in, even though I didn't get to really use it. So we had one there. We had one on the south spire of two on the south spire of the Harbour Bridge, and then I was down at where the Sydney the international cruise terminal is.
Yeah.
Like going like back like that way, right?
Yeah.
And so we projected for about, I think it was about 52 minutes. And then finally the Opera House like turned on their lights.
Yeah.
And then like blah, blah, bullshit. And then we brought the footage back to the hotel. My other crew left and we took all that stuff and we're doing the upload onto the cloud. And then my friend's girlfriend, Elle, is on the front of the hotel balcony and she's like sitting there smoking a cigarette and she looks down and the cops are on the little point that sticks out from where the Hyatt is, like the little part of the fucking, the kind of, the pier there. And the cops look up and they're like, there you guys are. So they come and then there's like probably four, I think it was like 4 or 5 cops. And they like knock on the door and they come in and they're like, what happened? And everyone's like, nothing. And then they're like, we're going to arrest everybody. So I was like, there's like older lady that was with us that was helped us do it, which was Jenny Hallam. She's a pretty cool chick. She's an interesting one you should interview. Yeah. And basically, and Alex's girlfriend and stuff like that. And they're not the ones that we came up with the idea, so we got to take the rap for the. And the cops are like, look, we're going to arrest you all. And I knew that they're going to get locked up for 4 or 5 hours and blah. It's just going to be a bunch of bullshit for them. So I was like, looked at Alec and I'm like, look, we just put our hand up and we did it, right? So we got arrested. They took all of our drives and our cameras and the laser projector and confiscated everything. And luckily, my mate was when we were getting arrested, he stashed one of the memory cards in the plant in the side of up above the kind of corner of the room. Yeah. And then I finally got out because I signed off my bail papers. And then basically, that kind of, I was locked up for 6 hours. And then my bail conditions, I had to sign in at the cop station 3 times a week for about 2.5, 3 months. And then I wasn't allowed within 3 kilometres of the Sydney CBD.
What the fuck are you doing here?
Still not allowed to talk to Alec. I can't talk to Alec under the bikie, what do they call it? Consorting laws, okay? So the bikie consorting laws, which were created in the 2010, whatever it was, to fight bikie crime. And they basically, it's a charge that you can't come together as a group and they can define it as a criminal act and bullshit invasion of your fucking rights stuff, right? Yeah. And they did that to us and we have like a gag order against us, as Americans would call it, that says we're not allowed to communicate with each other. So it's like, and it was based off a bylaw. It's really kind of crazy. But, it comes back to what I said before, is that when you don't know what's going to happen with something, because no one's ever done that before. Yeah. So it's like, you don't know what's going to happen. It's like there's a lot of intangible, but there's an expectation,
So why are you doing this? Like, what is it for?
Because we want cannabis recreationally legalized, and we want people to be able to grow their own pot and not have to go to jail for it. Yeah. And
did you grow up here?
Yeah, I grew up in Australia, but I lived all over the world. Yeah. And I remember when I was a really little kid, when I was in Switzerland, weed was legal in Valais, which is the canton that is where Verbier is, where I used to live when I was a kid. And in Switzerland, they have the only truly democratic society. So if something goes over 60-40 in the parliament, they have a national referendum, and then whatever that decision is makes the law go either way, right? Right. So weed was legal in Switzerland, and then the cantons all voted, and then they voted it illegal again. Right. That was the first experience that I had with it. Then obviously I've been to America, lived in, been to Amsterdam many times, bullshit, really. And now I just discovered a love for it in Canada when I was probably maybe 15 or 16. It's made everything better.
Well, I've got a question for you. So, you talk about going to America, great shops, you can get candies, oils, you name it, you can get it, everything.
Yeah.
When do you think Australia could be at that stage where you can actually walk into a shop?
It depends on the way that they do the rollout of legalization, because the way that the Canadians did it is kind of like how they have their liquor stores set up, or at least British Columbia, right? Quebec's a little bit different, and I'm not 100% sure about the other states like Manitoba and anyways, blah blah blah, Ontario and stuff like that.
This is a good ad for getting high.
where there's like America, each state, like we co-own a cannabis dispensary in California that I used to with one of my good friends, Corey Zola, who used to ski with a lot, right? And so in America, we can't bank the money that we make from cannabis, and we can't because it's not federally legalized. You can't because it's a state-run ordinance, right? Similar laws to these zoning, blah. It's just like layers and layers of the law. So in America, there's federal law, state law, county law, and then there's also campus law too. So they have certain rules even on the campus of a college that don't apply to the rest of the. That's why they have on-campus police officers, right? And I think that's on the. But anyways, when my business partner went to go get his Californian cannabis controlled card to open a cannabis dispensary in California, okay, he had to go to Sacramento with $58,000 in cash and pay them in cash like a drug deal because it's not federally ratified, so they can't trade money in the bank system. So we've lost 8 bank accounts, I think my friend has. And you can't write anything off, so you can't. So it's a weird kind of system, right? Now the one that'll be the most interesting is Germany. Germany's about to federally legalize. They've done it in Thailand too, but they did it in the kind of the wrong way. But that guy wants to be prime minister, so he's doing what he. It's pretty crazy. They went from basically you're going to go. That's pretty non-expected.
But aren't all the states in America making so much money now from the taxes that even the federal laws in America will catch up because they'll want some of that revenue, won't they? But why won't Australia do it?
Why won't Australia do it? Because it's kind of like I think it's kind of like a little bit more of a nanny society. I think we're very much under the thumb of England. And I think that it just won't happen because there's no lobby. Like there's the Greens lobby. There's that big article that came out yesterday that they're suggesting federal legalization, and they so but basically there is the potential that they've just put in this bill that says that federal legalization and you're allowed to grow a certain amount of plants per household, and then there's all these jurisdictional obligations with the way that cannabis is distributed, policed, like what the dosage levels, like all that stuff. I think the Australian government, if it was ever legalized, would greatly control. I don't think they'd let a free market like America.
Well, it's already legal medically here.
Yes, it is. It is also. It is
weed
medically
is
legal here as well. Do you have your medical card?
Yeah, I don't have a medical card, no, but I have a prescription.
What about yourself? How did you start smoking cannabis?
Well, I actually only started smoking cannabis when I was 21, so I never actually touched drugs or anything like that because growing up, my dad was real addicted to drugs, so I always been scared of doing any sort of hard drugs or anything like that and classify weed as a hard drug. But I had a really bad breakup with a boyfriend, and my friend who was a big weed smoker came over one day and was just like, you haven't been sleeping properly for 2 weeks, you haven't laughed, smoke a little bit, see how you feel. Smoked a little bit and forgot my problems. So I've been a massive.
It'll do that.
I've been a massive.
It definitely adds a lot of value to the world.
And
makes everything better.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about it being federally illegal in the States, because of that was why I was banned from the States for 5 years.
Okay.
So I was over there after I was filming a show, The Challenge, and I stayed for a couple of months just to party and all that stuff. And then COVID happened. Yeah. So I've essentially got stuck in America because I couldn't come home. And I was staying there for like 9 months at the time, renewing my visa. And then it got to the point where I was like, I need to leave the country to renew my visa, but I couldn't get home to Australia. So I had to go to the next closest sort of place that had a US processing, whatever it was, a consulate. So I had to go to Panama. And I got my visa approved. And on the way back from Panama, I had to stop in Miami before I went to LA. And when I got to the borders in Miami to get back in, they were like to me, why are you coming back here? You've just here 2 weeks ago and you've stayed for 9 months. I was like, no, because of COVID, yada, yada. So what happened was, because I overstayed my visa by 1 day because I forgot a renewal date, like I missed the renewal date, they pulled me into the holding cell. And when you get pulled into the holding cell, no one told me that they can go through your phone. So they were like, give me your phone. I was like, why? And they're like, oh, we need to go through it to make sure you're not a sex trafficker or like doing anything dodgy. I was like, okay, here's my phone. And they went through it and they found all these messages about me referencing weed and like shroomies and all that to my friends. They're like, oh, so you were doing drugs in America. And I was like, well, technically I did weed in LA where it's legal. They're like, yeah, but federally it's illegal. I was like, well, I went to a shop and bought it as a, 21-year-old, like 27-year-old woman. So it's legal. They're like, no, it's federally illegal. And so saying like, you're on drugs and stuff like that. And yeah, so they're like, oh, you're banned for 5 years.
So how did you get out? Where did you get sent after that?
So after that, I had to go back to Panama because they couldn't.
Send you back to Panama.
Yeah.
And how did you get back to Australia without going through America?
So I had to stay.
Mexico City?
No, so I had to stay in Panama to find a flight that was direct to Australia because around this time there was no flights going anywhere.
Can you fly to? It's Panama City, isn't it?
Yeah, so you fly from Panama to Dubai, Panama to Brazil to Abu Dhabi to New Zealand, and New Zealand to Sydney. So I did all that, but I got stuck in Brazil because they said you can't board this flight because New Zealand has these COVID restrictions and all that, and you can't get in unless you've got a direct flight to Sydney. I was like, no, but I am going to Sydney. They're like, oh, no, you can't come through here because of quarantine things. So I got stuck in Brazil for a week before I could find a direct flight to Sydney. And they eventually found one.
Where did you fly from Buenos Aires? No, from
Sao Paulo.
Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So that's why I'm banned in the States. Yeah.
I got arrested in Utah with less than 2 grams of pot. Got pulled over by in a place called Park City.
Yeah.
Where they have the Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah.
And I was on the way to go see my clothing sponsor. Watch out. Oh. And then anyways, we went into the Walmart, and afterwards we came out. We did an illegal turn. They pulled us over. Blah blah blah. Tricked my friend into admitting that they could search the car because he's long story. But anyways, basically, I gave them the pot, thinking that like they'd just let me go. Oh, this one. Basically, I get pulled over. We get pulled over. My friend, we're in a big black Hummer though with Quebec plates on. So my friend's driven from the east coast of Canada all the way to California. So that's pretty far, right? So obviously that's a red flag already for a cop. Yeah. And he did the illegal turn. And anyways, so they arrest me. They put me in handcuffs, and I'm in the cop car, and there's like a big dog behind it where I am going off like a crazy motherfucking person. And then they take me to the cell. I got locked up for like, I think 6 or 7 hours. My friend had to bail me out, which cost, I was only 2 grams of pot. It's a tiny bit of pot, right? And obviously Utah's Mormon, right? Now they have medicinal cannabis, but recreational cannabis, she's still getting in heaps of trouble, apparently. I haven't been there since this happened, right?
It's fucked.
So anyway, I got my friend, it cost him $6,000 on his credit card to bail me out, right? And I wasn't scared at all, but I got put in the processing cell. They have the like the kind of circular thing. Yeah. And I did the mug shots and all that shit. And I've never been arrested other than that and for this, right? And so I go through, and then there was people being processed in the middle, and they kept changing like my cubicle I was in. And I'm sitting in the cubicle, and I wasn't really phased for about the first maybe 4 hours. And then after 4 hours, I was like, fuck. And it was like a Friday. So that means that you'd be stuck until, and I think it was like a long weekend or something like that. Or the American equivalent of a long weekend. And I saw people going in and getting the jumpsuits, the orange jumpsuits. had I have gone away, I would have just gone to fucking county lockup, right? That's like Summit County.
Yeah.
It's like it wouldn't have been that bad, but still. And then I get bailed out. I had to get drug tested to get, because I got a federal misdemeanor and a federal, like, it's just stupid shit, right?
So do you have a record?
No, I don't have a record. What I did was I had to get drug tested for 4 months in Australia.
Yeah.
And then I had to do a drug and alcohol analysis test. And I had to send the drug and alcohol test from there to America, like pay hundreds of fucking dollars every. And then I had to get interviewed by a psychologist about my drug habits, and I fucking lied the shit out of that. And then, but I couldn't leave for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Because of these 2 grams of pot.
Yeah, it's fucked.
And then I went back to America. I got a new ski sponsor, and I'd been stuck in Australia for a long fucking story. But anyways, this ski sponsor buys me a ticket to Colorado, right? And
I love Colorado,
LA, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't been back since that happened, right? So I go, my mum's like yelling at me, going, "Come on, like just go to the embassy." I'm like, "No, fuck off, shut up. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I just want to get the fuck out of here, right? Been here for too long, just been there too long, right? Going crazy in my brain because I want to go skiing." And I'm like, I get the ticket, I fly over.
Yeah.
And I get to LAX, and I'm there, and they're like, "Sorry, sir, you've got." I ticked like I had no arrest.
Yeah.
But I had been arrested, right? But I said they were cleared, right?
Yeah.
They're cleared.
Yeah.
But I have to now get a business visa, or like send them in the passport. This is what I had to do afterwards, right? So I'm in LAX. They put me through the processing. I get locked up in a little cell.
Isn't it so fucked up?
With in LAX, it's like this looks like an old school class.
And it's so cold in there.
It's cold. And they fucking got a VCR player, bro. Seriously, they got a VCR player in the ghetto. Like, that's probably the spreader of COVID, is that little room.
Did they go through your phone as well?
No, they didn't go through my phone because I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't have weed, or there was nothing. It was charges. It was just stupid. I had to go back and get a different visa. And then they sent me back, and they took 2 TSA officers, and they escorted me back to the flight.
That's so. See, when I was stuck in it was the worst moment of my life, though. Like, because
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, but for me, I flew.
Fun.
I flew in from Panama at 11 a.m. and this is when there was
you got stuck for a week or so. Like, that really fucked you up.
I got stuck for 16 hours because the next flight
out. It's pretty hard to navigate if you can't go through America because it's just a connector.
Yeah, well, I can't go back now for 5 years. What do I do? I'm fucked.
I think you can apply for the
Well, I can apply for the B visa, but then the embassy. But the embassy here is not taking anyone until August.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's go to the Brisbane one.
Oh yeah, I might do that. Yeah, actually, fuck, I wouldn't want to go back to the States now. The only reason why I'll go back to the States is for the weed. That's what I do miss. I miss how you were able to get everything under the sun there: sativa, indica, oils, gummies.
Too much when I'm in America.
Oh god, and I just and then you get to a point where you smoke and eat too much weed, and you're just like kind of sick of it.
I've knocked out from cannabis many times. Like, edibles are gnarly, especially if you don't. It doesn't matter how much weed you smoke. Edibles will get you. They're gnarly.
Yeah.
I've been like comatose. My friend's dad just went, like a fucking pile of shit.
For me, it's like you can't even move your body, and like your brain is just trying to move, and then
it's
it's fucked. Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Almost like taking Valium. It just gets so. You sleep really good though.
I know.
Amazing.
But munchies though.
And what's your personal views and your friends' views on cannabis?
Well,
obviously.
I fucking love weed. Like, you know.
How long have you been smoking for now?
Since I was 21, so 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So that's quite a long time.
Yeah. So I fucking I've just always smoked weed. I just love it because I have a lot of head noise.
Do you smoke bongs or do you smoke joints?
I don't do bongs. I just do little rollies or vapes now.
The vape's good though, isn't it?
I like it. Yeah, but
vape will get you really fucking high though.
But it gets you so monged out though, and like my thing is
not real functional for doing stuff. Depends on some people I know like get more charged up. So.
No, when I was stuck in the States, right? When I was stuck in Colorado for 6 months. So that's where I stayed, and I met like a boy there, and like with like I had this whole thing. I thought I was gonna like stay there permanently, hence the visa, overstay, and all that shit. But during COVID, I would just smoke and go for runs because that runner's high you get when you're smoking, it's so enhanced and it's amazing.
What a scam all that shit was. You think you had a bad... Where I live on the Gold Coast border.
Yeah.
There was a border closure for almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
So you couldn't come from New South Wales into Sydney without going through the police checks. So I had a car on either side of the border. Yeah. And then I just walked through the park. I did that for a year and a half. And then my mum, who's in... Well, anyways, that shit was horrible, dude. Yeah. How the fuck can they set up a domestic border in our...
And now look at it. COVID's like nothing. Like...
Man, I was... Yeah, I had a friend have a very bad incident with like all that bullshit.
Really?
Yeah, what? She was coming back from Melbourne into WA, and she's a foreigner, and she went back to WA. So she's self-quarantining in a house. Her boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, accused her of cheating. Oh. And he punched her in the head. Fuck. And she like said he was going to kill her, but went psycho. And she ran out of the house. She went to the next door neighbour's house. The guy was like, lock the door. Guy comes over screaming bullshit. Cops come. He gets arrested. Well, she broke her quarantine laws. Okay, she works with frontline worker, right? I'm not going to get into more details because she wouldn't want me to. But it's a horrible story, which is pretty embarrassing for Australia and especially for that fucking dickhead Mark McGowan.
It just goes back to what you're saying, like we are such
people forgotten, right?
Yeah.
So she gets beaten up and she's running away for her life. She gets arrested too for breaking quarantine. She gets locked up for 2 nights, gets strip searched, same holding cell as a criminal, and then she had to pay $6,000 and quarantine in a fucking hotel with 2 security guards there.
That's fucked up.
And she didn't do anything. All she did was just walk out the door to get away from a guy that's trying. So, and that's only one example, right? Yeah. I'm sure it happened a lot more. But like even it was, and people are easily forgotten. They don't talk about it now. That was fucking invasion of our rights. Yeah. Like that's why it got to the end. Remember when the crazy protests in?
Yeah. Because people just had a gutful, and I've had a gutful of Australia as well with everything that's been going on. Like,
but America's falling apart too.
So what do we do? Move to Thailand?
I want to move to Russia.
Really? Why Russia? Fucking that with everything happening.
Sick,
everything happening right now. That has to be bombed.
No, Russia's amazing. Like I went to Sochi about 4 years ago to go skiing. Maybe 4 or 5.
They're going through a war right now.
Is that 5 years ago? It's about 5 years ago, right? Anyways, it was amazing. It was so cool. It was beautiful. The mountains there are so sick. And the girls are amazing. And Moscow is a strange city. It's very drab and dreary. We went there in like March. But yeah, Russia was pretty fucking cool, man.
Yeah, but they're going through a war right now. So
yeah, but the war's in the west of the Ukraine or the east of the Ukraine. Like it's not in Russia. Like
is weed legal there?
Nah, you don't want to. Didn't you see that Brittany Griner or whatever her name is? The girl that went the basketball.
Yeah, I did.
The little thing. Nah, you can get. I smoked weed when I was in Russia, but I just smoked one joint in 3 weeks. Yeah. I met some girl that I met on Tinder. We hooked up, and she was pretty cool. And she bought me a doobie, and we smoked the doobie like behind the block, in the fake Disneyland village that's been built for the 2014 Olympics. It was a pretty interesting place. It was very beautiful. And I'd like to live there, actually, for a few months. It'd be pretty cool.
So that's next for you? What's next? Are you doing something crazy for 420 this year?
Yeah, we do have some plans. Yeah. Some shit in action. We don't, but obviously you'll have to wait and see. We kind of got some interesting ideas. It's a hard one to think of. We're still on bail, so we have to be mindful of that. Because if we do something, we can just get fucked with more. Yeah.
So what is this all for though? Like who's funding it? It's just for...
We fund it.
Yeah. And is it just for a laugh?
No, it's not for a laugh at all. It's we want cannabis legalized.
Yeah. So you're doing it until cannabis gets legalized.
Well, basically, yeah. What else?
It's a campaign, but there's a lot of people listening to this now who are sitting back, getting high. What can they do apart from like
They can write into their local. They can write into their local MP. They can go get their medicinal cannabis script if they need it, which is really beneficial towards
super easy to do.
Kind of the journey that we're going to go on to potential recreational legalization in Australia, because the medicinal system at the moment is actually reasonably good, but not a lot of people are aware of it. So there's only just over maybe 100,000 people that I'm aware of or that are on the program. It might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less, but you can understand that if more people knew about it, then more people would be doing it, because it is very beneficial for a lot of different ailments and a lot of different things. And it's actually very easy to get.
It's so easy. I just gave them a call. Yeah.
And how was your process? How did you go about it?
Super easy. She asked me like a couple questions. Why you need it? I was like, I've got anxiety. Have you smoked before? Yep. I lived in America for 6 months. She's like, yep, here you go. And I send them a text and order my weed. And
you order your weed through your text?
That's it. And they deliver it right at my door.
Yeah. So that is available, which is awesome. It's pretty much almost weed legalization in a way.
Yeah.
But it's still not freedom. It's not like it should be treated like alcohol.
Yeah.
And again, this is my opinion, but that's what I think. That other people might have a differing opinion, but you can reference all these countries that have decriminalized and then kind of legalized, potentially if you call it that, or decriminalized personal uses of drugs and treated drugs and drug addiction as a health problem instead of a criminal problem. I think that those societies have progressed immensely in a very short amount of time, simply because of just certain changes in,
well, look at
legislation.
Thailand. Like, I never thought they would legalize weed out of all countries.
That's an interesting one. It'll be very interesting to see how that transpires, because
have
obviously there's a lot of shops and there's a lot of people selling on it's not a very controlled market.
Yeah.
A lot of US companies and have stuff. Cookies just opened their first store in Bangkok, I think. And so, that's pretty awesome. That's amazing. I never would have thought that would happen either. But I've never been to Thailand, so
oh, okay.
I don't really have the reference point of that. I obviously know what Thailand is. I've been many places in the world, but most of the places I've traveled to were always for skiing.
I saw a meme the other day that said Italy for women is like Thailand for men.
Okay, yeah. Italy's pretty fucking amazing, though.
Was just there a couple months ago, yeah.
Northern Italy's
fucking I was in Lake Como.
Oh, my God. Fuck, I had some crazy times in Milan. It was fucking awesome. Dating in Milan is actually very strange. I read on the internet that in Milan a man will court a woman for 3 to 4 months with gifts and attention before he will, get laid.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting one.
I should move to Milan then.
But
yeah.
Man, there's some beautiful women that walk those streets. Damn, I saw some very eclectically beautiful women with just the maddest style you've ever, like fucking swagger. Oh my God. But the food there is just incredible.
Yeah.
The food. Oh, I took a bunch of hash and blah 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 to Milan and to Venice and just smoked so much pot and just walked around and just ate so much fucking food.
Yeah.
It's like fugasmic, everything you eat. And especially when you smoke weed, it makes food so much better. And that's why you traveled halfway around the world to go to Italy, was to go eat fucking dank as fuck food, high as fuck. That's like that, that's the best thing in the world.
That's it. Well, speaking of, I've got the munchies right now, so we should wrap this up.
So what are your, may I ask before we leave, what are your family's kind of views and like the general population that you interact with?
Well,
what do they think about cannabis legalization?
My mum will, if she knows that I was smoking, she would probably disown me. So hopefully she will never find this podcast. Like a lot of things that, I do. But I come from a very...
what is your background?
I'm Viet. So my parents are very strict. And my mum is just the typical stereotype tiger mum. So when she found out she caught me with a cigarette before, and I was fucked for like 2 weeks. Like, she whooped the shit out of me. So if she was to find out I was smoking, she would hate it. But my friends are all smokers, most of them anyway. So
do most of them smoke joints, or do they smoke bongs?
Joints. We're a classy bunch.
It is definitely a classier bunch, but you know, right time, right place. It's not.
In the States, all the kids are smoking the vape pens with the oil. That's all what they're doing.
I've got one here actually. I'll give you one after the podcast.
Yeah, I wish you could
You
get
got one actually.
It's hard to get them in Sydney, but not impossible. But it's
got it.
incredible, and it's changed the party scene there. Everyone's just high all the time with vape pens.
They're fucking awesome, eh? They fuck you up, dude.
Ooh,
They
yeah.
get you really high, especially when you're drinking, when you have a couple of beers. But it's a great buzz. It's fantastic.
What's going on?
It's fantastic. And so what would you as an Australian citizen, what would you like to see happen in Australia with legalization?
I would like to see where, like LA, if I want weed, I want to be able to go to a shop, buy my weed like an adult. Like I can buy cigarettes and alcohol now. That's what I would ideally would like to see.
That's pretty much all it kind of boils down to.
Yeah.
Is for me personally, people already have medicinal cannabis, and that's a great program. And I encourage everybody out there to go and see their local GP or Google medical cannabis Australia. Obviously on the Gold Coast is Burley Cannabis. There's all sorts of people all over the world, all over Australia, excuse me, that are doing it. And it's a lot easier than people think, and people need to know that. And then hopefully in the future that expands, and then potentially this Greens bill goes through and they legalize cannabis. But personally,
Do you think we're there?
I think if they really voted for it, people would vote for it. When New Zealand did it, they did it as a plebiscite. Like I think it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and they put it on the backside of euthanasia, and so that was and Jacinta Ardern didn't really take a stance on it, and because it was a COVID year, the Conservative government it just missed out on going through by like 3%. It's like 47, 52 or 50, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of stuff that could probably be learnt from that. Obviously, what does euthanasia and cannabis legalization have? Why is that in the same?
Why is that in the same category?
Well, I don't know how it works in New Zealand, but
well, fuck, if I was about to, try to off myself.
I personally think it'd be cool to have like a referendum like they did for gay, marriage. That'd be cool, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'll try and push it and keep going, but like honestly, unless you get one of those two big parties involved and on your shit, you need to really grease a lot of people's pocketbooks and make it in their best interest, and then maybe you might get some law change. But there is one dude that in Canberra who they've decriminalised cannabis in Canberra. You're allowed to grow your own plants.
But only up to 2 though, right?
No, I think it's a little bit more than that. I think you're allowed up to 50 grams. 56 grams or something like that, which is pretty awesome. Which is pretty awesome, And then so I think his name's Michael Pedersen. His name is Anyway, so he also has put in a bill that went through to decriminalise personal amounts of all drugs for everyone in the ACT. And that comes in at the end of October of this year.
That's awesome.
So that'll be a really good microcosmos test of the ramifications or the betterment of the society in Australia in front of people's eyes. It's already happened with cannabis, and you don't see people smoking cannabis everywhere. Even decriminalisation would be massive. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed, yeah.
That would be the step towards like a much brighter green future for everyone. And like there's so many uses of it. So again, at the end of the day, a national referendum, but they should just legalise it. It shouldn't have to be a vote. It should just happen. Yeah. In my personal opinion. Just fucking do it. And there's a lot, like yesterday there was a report that came out that said that cannabis could contribute about $28 billion a year to the economy for roads, schools. And you just make sure that it's taxed correctly, it's controlled, it takes all the fucking money out of the organised crime. You get a better quality product, which means that you get less adverse risks because of proper fucking flushing of the system of the chemicals that they grow with, and none of that really shitty, horrible weed that's very prominent in Australia.
Yeah, the bushweed.
PCR bullshit. No, not bushweed. Bushweed's good. PCR stuff that's basically covered in chemicals that aren't good for you.
The hydro shit.
Yeah, no, hydro can be done properly, but if it's not done properly and it's not flushed properly, then you're going to get a lot of the chemicals, which then cause psychosis. So the weed here, the weed that's like prominent everywhere, which is being distributed by a group of a bunch of groups of these criminal organizations
that we don't know.
It's not really that good a product, and it's not really good for you. So legalization, and more people even getting medical, which is what I was talking about, the more people that get it. So if you have any ailments, go to the doctor, Google it, find out, go get legal weed. It's pretty awesome. So you can get it, but not many people know that you can get it. And then of the people that know, less and less will actually go through and do it. So, but if more people did that, then that'd send the numbers up, and that's the rippling effect.
I'm just going to chuck a link in the description for people to check. Yeah, people check it out. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. It was pretty interesting to chat.
Thank you so much for coming, and give people a plug of how they can find you.
Check us out. I'm launching a CBD company, which is next week, called Byron Based CBD. Guiding light to health and wellness.
Yes.
We're going to have some pretty crazy
I'm going to check it out.
Sports creams and tinctures and all sorts of stuff like that. My personal is Willie's World 69 and Ballin' on a Budget Media. So
appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And check us out. Check out also the Craze Code. Shout out to Alec. He's my partner in crime. We've been doing this for a long time. Check him out at the Craze Code on Instagram and on YouTube.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much, guys, for listening to that episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing it. So if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at @dnewen.